Hello, fellow beings. Today I woke up and I chose violence. So let's get into it. The ego, the shadow self, the sponge that receives and absorbs all of our thoughts, emotions, and societal stuff. I don't want to assume that most of us know what the ego is already, so I'm going to give a short description. I am going to use Eckhart Tolle's definition of ego because he knows some stuff about ego. Shameless plug. Great book. But ego, it is, how to build it, integration, working with it. The ego is a part of us that identifies with things externally as being us. Our likes, our ideas, our beliefs, or material things. It is a part that gets triggered and offended and worn up. That's why with children, you get them a toy and they become identified with the toys. They take it away or they can't get what they want, they cry and freak out. Or our egos will deeply identify with the objects that we like. This is my toy, this is my room, or for adults, this is my car, this is my house, my. It's a part of me, it's an extension of me. Therefore, if you mess with it, you mess with me. While editing this video, I realized I left something out. I also want to include that the ego is the part of us that has a lot of negative self-talk. It is negative beliefs, it's the anti-unity, it's the separateness saying, oh, I can't do this, everything's against me, I'm a failure, everything's so hard, why can't I have these things? It's the part that takes everything personally. It takes the whole world as an attack against itself because it doesn't identify that everything comes from the self. Yeah. What's got me a little passionate about this conversation, this video, is I've been seeing a whole bunch of getting rid of your ego, staming the ego, dissolving the ego, getting rid of it, fighting your ego, ignore the ego, the ego's bad, it's dark, and blah 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 blah.
I do not say blah blah blah.
And in all that talk about fighting off the ego or ignoring the ego or pushing it away, I'm doing the complete opposite of what is needed to quell the ego's voice or soften the ego's voice. We'll always talk about integrating the shadow self, but then dissolving the ego, not really thinking about the fact that the shadow self and the ego are intertwined. If your higher self and divine guidance and the God within you is part of the ascension experience, the enlightenment experience, then inner child, shadow self, and ego are part of the human experience. Ego is still a part of who we are. Cutting it out is causing fragmentation. It's cutting a part of the human experience that we're having. Ego is basically our dark twin. It's our rival in some way, shape, or form. It's our greatest teacher. Without something to overcome in the human experience, you won't learn, because to ascend, you have to overcome ego. It's the template, it's the lesson guide, it's our Yoda. A great example that I have, because I'm a nerd, is Naruto. If you don't watch anime, this might not make sense, and if you haven't watched Naruto yet, spoilers, I'm sorry. Using Naruto as an example, the character Sasuke can be seen as ego. It's angry and irritable and has a lot of pain and doesn't really understand unity and oneness. And to create some sense of unity, some sense of self, some sense of control, it is to overtake and overpower everything around him. Whereas we can look at Naruto as the higher self, being that he understands that true strength and unity comes from love and acceptance and friendship with everyone. Even no matter how dark his enemy is, even that the darker the enemy is, the more he tries to understand and incorporate the enemy into, we can become friendship. I can take your pain as my own and we can both heal that way. Or how much Sasuke tries to betray Naruto and self-sabotage their relationship, Naruto keeps shedding more light on Sasuke. That's what brings peace between the two, and eventually Sasuke understands that it's the truth, it's love and unity. And Sasuke agrees to be the shadow, Naruto's light, and Sasuke agrees to be the shadow self. They're working together, balance between the light and dark aspects of ourselves, integrating into a whole. Shadow self, the ego, is a child. It's a scared, stubborn child that really wants to have a place, because the ego doesn't have consciousness, not connected to consciousness. The ego is our most human, earthly self. It's 3D as it gets. It doesn't have connection to divine consciousness. It isn't aware of unity and oneness. So in our process of healing, when you push against the ego, it gets bigger. It's the law of, oh my gosh, what is it called? I'm gonna put it right here, what it's called, or right here. One of these places I'll put what it's called. But basically, it's the harder you push against something, the harder it pushes back on you. The more you try to quell and shut your ego up, the louder the ego is, because it's like you're trying to shut me up and I want to exist. You're pushing against my existence. Absolutely freaking not. So it gets louder and tries to find more ways to prove I'm here. To truly heal and quiet the ego is to take the ego in like you would a small child. It's to listen to what the ego has to say. The ego isn't the enemy, but it's a rival, it's a teacher. Whatever the ego is triggered by or irritated by, you can look at that and be like, okay, what is this here that I need to unpack? It's to give full attention and shine light on that darkness. Because by showing more love and patience and understanding to the ego, on its own, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller until it's a little tiny whisper that you can acknowledge and keep it pushing. Say someone like crashes your car. Of course, the first instinct is going to be,
Oh my freaking god, you crashed my car! What the
and looking at that big reaction, you take a moment to step back and go through all the processing and realize, yes, that hurt me. That sucks. I don't like this. Though, I'm okay. My friend's okay. I can always get another car. I'm still in one piece. I'm still breathing without that car. So clearly I didn't need the car to live. It hurts, but I didn't need it to live. And that's the whole process. It's realizing you don't need these things to live, but not beating yourself and being like, oh my gosh, what was wrong with me? I was so upset. It wasn't a big deal. It's taking the moment to be patient with your humanness. The ego isn't some big bully. I mean, it kind of is a bully because it'd be talking shit. In most instances, the ego is out there to protect you because it's part of you. It's like, this is my body, this is my mind, this is my. So everything that it identifies with as being part of you wants to protect those things it believes to be part of you. Because the ego doesn't think that it's causing a problem. It thinks, I am trying to make life what I want it to be. And it's a misguided childlike self. The higher self has to be the parent, and you see a child throwing a tantrum, you watch and observe. Once it's quiet down, you talk to it and realize, hey, I see it upsets you, but it's not the end of the world. Life goes on. And through constant repetition of that to the ego, it gets softer and softer and softer. And it's not fighting against it or pushing it away. It's slowly embracing it and incorporating it into you. I'm not gonna say it's impossible to fully get rid of the ego, but I also kind of want to say it's impossible to fully get rid of the ego. As long as we're human, the ego is going to be there. It's going to keep trying to be what it is, because that's our balance. That's our equality. To have a higher self, you need a lower self, and that's how this whole experience works. It's around and around and around, and constant learning, constant chasing, constant growth. It's spiraling upward and upward and upward and upward. That's why people who have a spiritual enlightenment know that the more they heal, the more stuff comes up, and the more emotions come up, and the more problems and roadblocks and bigger problems come up for you to overcome. So instead of saying the ego's the enemy, we think of the ego's bad, no ego. Thank your ego for allowing you to grow. And none of this process is, cut and dry. It's definitely easier said than done. It takes a lot of observing yourself and listening to yourself and really taking a moment to be present and meditate and hear the little voice in your head as something other. But step back and just observe and try your best to let the process flow and heal as it goes. If you slip up, brush yourself off, forgive yourself, remind yourself that you're human and you're learning, and keep it going. The more you show yourself love and respect and understanding, the more the ego is kind of like, what's going on? It's retraining your mind not to worry about all the things. And you're still gonna worry about all the things. But instead of letting that take over your entire mind, your entire day, it's, oh, that happened. Okay, here we go. Oh, that happened. Here we go. I really hope I made it clear. There's so many opinions and viewpoints in the spiritual community, and I'm not gonna say any of them are wrong because everyone has their own perspective, everyone has their experience. It's part of being human, it's part of the universe experiencing itself. No one is wrong, but anyone can be misguided. Even me. Part of being human. It's part of learning, it's part of growth. And since there's so many opinions out there, here's mine. If it resonates, that is wonderful. If it doesn't, find someone who resonates more. If you have your own thoughts, leave them in the comment section below. We love a chit chat, chitty chat. If you want more of my mental rants about this human being's perspective of life, then please subscribe and click the little notification bell. And my name is Kai. I upload videos every Wednesday, so I would love you to join the family. And until next time, toodles!